Now folks, very often the problems that we face all come from our government, from government corruption and from the corruption of the system itself. Complain about the government. Now this is very true in many ways. It is the system itself that is corrupt, that causes all of the problems. Complain about the government. But ultimately, when you get down to the very nature of the system itself, complain about the government. What you find is that the system is us. It is we the people. Complain about the government. We are the ones who support the system, and we are the ones who essentially hold it up in its every aspect due to our compliance with the system, and yet the system itself only exists on paper. It's just an idea, a set of rules that have been written down. The people that work this system continually add to in order to make the system itself more efficient. Complain about the government. But ultimately the problem with the system itself is us. It is we the people, us. Complain about the government. We are the ones who hold it up due to our compliance with the system, us. Complain about the government.
There are millions of people on this planet who claim to have a personal relationship with somebody called Jesus. And each of those people, it seems, has a different Jesus in their imagination, which is where Jesus lives. A Jesus who shares all their particular values and prejudices.
Just getting your head around this basic understanding can completely change your perspective of what the system is and how to fix the problems that we face as a species. Complain about the government. Because it becomes clear that non-compliance to the system is the way to fix the problems. Complain about the government.
And this is the beauty of Jesus, the magic, the miracle of Jesus, is that each of us can create him in our own image, and he can be whoever we want him to be.
And this is regardless of your position in society. This is regardless of whether you are a common worker, policeman, politician. Complain about the government. All the people in all these walks of life, most of them are not happy with the state of the world. Complain about the government.
Atheists also have their own version of Jesus, because Jesus, whether we like it or not, is a part of our culture.
This is the type of society that's been created by society itself, by the education system. Complain about the government.
There's a common misconception among Christians that the purpose of their religion is to spread the message of Jesus.
And by the whole hierarchical structure of this society, you can't blame the people. You have to blame the system. Complain about the government. But then you've got to understand, as I said, that it is the people that are holding up the system. Complain about
Christianity is grounded in the notion that there's something fundamentally wrong with being born a human being. Original sin is probably the most poisonous and self-destructive idea in human history, so naturally it's been enthusiastically embraced by clergy.
So whenever you sit there and you say, well, non-compliance would be good, but they won't let us do that, what you're failing to see is that they is us. Complain about the government. We are the ones who make up they. Complain about the government.
They don't want you to consider the lilies of the field or to seek the kingdom of heaven within, because that's too much like the message of Jesus.
Whether this be they the police force, or they the politicians, or they the bankers.
They'd rather you focus instead on the ludicrous celestial psychodrama of God and Satan and angels and demons and hellfire.
Complain about the government. The miners, the people working for the gas companies that are carrying out the fracking.
And to burden yourself with baseless guilt and morbid fear of eternal damnation.
These are us. These are all people who come from the community. Complain about the government.
They depict this earthly life as a grubby thing to be transcended because they want you disconnected from the planet that gives you life, to feel that you're apart from nature, not a part of nature, because they don't want you grounded in any way. They want you rootless, uncertain, susceptible, while they hold out the promise of eternal salvation.
Complain about the government. Many of these people are simply workers. They need the job in order to put food on the table. But what they are forgetting is that it's a temporary reprieve, it's a band-aid, because they say they're doing what they do in order to put food on the table and to support their family and their children. Complain about the government. But by their actions, they are destroying the world, so that they may be putting food on the table for their children now, but by doing so in the manner in which they are doing it, they are ensuring that their children will not have a world to live in. Complain about the government. Complain about the government.
If Jesus really was crucified, as per the Gospels, he didn't die for anybody's sins but his own. He died because he posed a threat to a group of people with strongly vested interests and very savage values. You may recall, he told the Pharisees point blank where they could find the kingdom of heaven.
Complain about the government.
Don't look here or there, he said. Look within. Look within.
Complain about the government.
Don't look here or there, he said. Look within.
Complain about the government.
But they didn't want to hear that any more than the modern Pharisees want to hear it, because they knew very well what he meant, that the kingdom of heaven is a state of awareness in the here and now that doesn't require the stewardship of professional clergy.
Complain about the government.
If we took his advice to seek it within, not only would we find it, we'd find the strength and the wisdom to put them and their whole blood-sucking, fear-mongering criminal racket permanently out of business. And because they lived in the kind of brutal society where they could have him put to death for his words, that's exactly what they did.
Complain about the government.
But you don't have to feel guilty about it because you weren't there. You had no opportunity to influence events. You are entirely blameless, and the only guilt that you need to feel is maybe a little passing sheepish embarrassment at ever having fallen for this insulting nonsense in the first place.